Welcome back to Pat Psychology Masters. I got some great feedback from last week's episode. Most of you really liked how short and snappy it was, so I'm going to go in that direction for future videos, just trying to keep things short, snappy and interesting without going too in depth and boring you too much. Leaving it up to you if you want to learn more about it. Do a bit of Googling, which I highly recommend with every topic because I find them all fascinating, and that might be particularly true for today's topic of fundamental attribution error. So I think most of you are going to be able to relate to this. You're driving along and someone cuts in front of you and you immediately think, fucking asshole, or feck them anyway. They're obviously just inconsiderate arseholes, you know. They're really annoying. They just look out for themselves. They're Mayfainers. And then the next day you have to cut in front of somebody yourself and you're like, oh jeez, well look, I'm in a rush, you know, I have to get here, I have to go there, you know, it's alright. And this is what's called a fundamental attribution error. And it's the idea that when somebody else engages in a behaviour, you rationalise that that's how that person is. Whereas when you engage in that behaviour, you take into consideration what the situation is. So you might be thinking, oh, well, I'm in a rush, or, oh, it's just because I didn't have a good sleep last night. You know, so it's kind of it's part of the human condition to attribute, you know, people's behaviours to their personality rather than to the situation they might find themselves in. And now, we don't do this all the time, and I think we can learn to attribute situational reasons for people's behaviour, but it's harder to do that when you don't know what the fundamental attribution error is. So I hope that helps you understand why people act in a certain way instead of maybe hating someone or judging someone or being frustrated with someone. Now, it's okay, it's understandable for you to do that, but try and combat that base tendency, that bias you have for fundamental attribution error. Quick insight into how it was discovered. It was discovered by two researchers, Jones and Harris, in 1967. And they didn't expect to discover it. It was a confound in their experiment. And a confound is, if you haven't heard me speak about it in a previous episode, a confound is a variable which you didn't expect to have an effect on your results. So, Jones and Harris' experiment involved giving people opinions written about Fidel Castro, and they were either positive or negative. We'll just look at the people who read the positive opinions first. So, when the readers were asked, why do you think that they wrote this positive piece, they would generally say, oh, I reckon it's because they have positive opinions about the person. Now, some people might say, oh, it's propaganda, oh, they feel they have to say it, oh, everybody thinks he's great, so that's why this person's thinking they're great as well. But generally speaking, people thought that the writer genuinely felt that way about Castro. In a slight variation of that experiment, they told people that the opinion that they were seeing was based on a coin flip. So let's say the coin turned up heads, well, the person had to write a positive opinion piece about Fidel Castro. And let's say the coin flip turned up tails, well, then they had to write a negative piece. Even knowing this situational factor, people still thought when they read a positive opinion piece about Castro that was because that's how they genuinely felt about him. Even though they knew they were given the instruction that this opinion piece was based on a coin flip, they still felt that, oh, this must be how the person feels about him. So this just goes to show that we just have this inherent bias in us to fundamentally attribute a person's personality into something which has a situational explanation. So the people in this experiment attributed the positive opinion of Castro to their personality rather than the coin flip, even though they were given that situation. that's all about the fundamental attribution error for this week. If you liked the video, give me the thumbs up. If you didn't like it, give me the thumbs down. I'd love to hear what you thought in the comments. Make sure to subscribe if you haven't already, and follow me on Instagram @PatPsychologyMasters. Thank you so much for watching, and see you next week.